Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world listening to this particular broadcast. Thank you for choosing BWTM. If you haven't already, please leave a comment, rate, and hit that subscribe button. When you hit the subscribe button, make sure you push the little bell next to it to be notified of all of our videos. This particular video is going to be difficult to do because this is somebody that is the second person within a year that has sadly left us, and someone who I had great ambitions to sit in a room with, to interview, to pick their brain. Somebody who I had great admiration for, somebody who was like a father figure to me, even though I never met them. They were full of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and had a great way of explaining themselves and still being funny. He was like the granddad you never had, the granddad that never had a granddad, because both of my granddads passed away before I can even know them. So he was like that grandfather who he was all wise and all knowing, and you could be safe in the knowledge that he had. This gentleman this goes by the name of Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory is somebody I often looked on YouTube and will continue to look on YouTube, and his great lectures, his great intellect, and was able to give information to particularly the Black community of America. I wished that we had characters like this in the UK. But yeah, Dick Gregory, an awesome man. It's a shame that he's passed away. But for those of you who don't know who Dick Gregory is, I'm going to give you a little flavor as to who this man was, or still is, in terms of, he's still around in my heart. And this article is a biography about Dick Gregory. Okay, Dick Gregory was a civil rights activist. He was an entrepreneur, he was a comedian and an author, and he sadly passed away not too long ago, 2017. Dick Gregory was a pioneer and comedian and civil rights activist who took on race with layered nuanced comedy during the turbulent 1960s. So people are asking, who is this Dick Gregory you're talking about, BWTM? I'll tell you. Dick Gregory was born in 1932 in St. Louis, Missouri. Gregory got his first big break performing as a stand-up comedian in the Playboy Club in the early 1960s. Known for his sophisticated layered humor that took on radical issues of the day, Gregory became a comedy headline and a trailblazer for other African-American comedians such as Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby. He also participated as an activist in the civil rights movement and eventually ran for political office. In his later years, he worked as a lecturer and pursued his interest in health and fitness. So let's get into his background in his early years. Richard Claxton Gregory was born second of 6 children on October the 12th, 1932 in St. Louis, Missouri. Gregory grew up in crippling poverty. His father abandoned his family, leaving his mother to work long hours as a maid to support the family. At the early age, Gregory found the power of comedy to defend himself against childhood bullies. They were going to laugh anyway, but if I made the joke, they'd laugh with me instead of at me, he wrote in his 1964 autobiography. After a while, I could say anything I wanted. I got a reputation as a funny man, and then I started to turn the jokes on them. In high school, he became a track star and showed the thirst for activism when he protested against segregated schools. He was later accepted into Southern Illinois University, where he excelled in track, and in 1954, he was drafted into the Army. He began performing stand-up comedy at this time, and winning a talent contest, he became part of the Army's entertainment division. Let's talk about his stand-up career. After his return to the States, Gregory worked as an MC for various Chicago clubs, honing his craft, working the comedy circuit while taking on odd jobs. His trailblazing style of satiric humor tackled racial issues and socio-political topics pulled straight from contemporary headlines. Gregory's big break came in 1961 at the Hugh Hefner Playboy Club in Chicago, where the comedian, as a replacement act, performed in front of a room of white executives visiting from the segregated South. Nonetheless, Gregory was a huge success and became the crossover star. It was the first time they'd seen a black comic who was not buckling his eyes, wasn't dancing and singing and telling mother-in-law jokes, said Gregory in the 2000 Boston Globe interview, just talking about what I read in the newspaper. The comedian had his run at the club extended by weeks and went on to become a national comedy headline. The same year, Gregory made history when he appeared on Jack Parr's Tonight Show after making it clear he wanted to be invited to sit on the couch and chat with the hosts like white entertainers, becoming the first African-American guest to do so. After his appearance, Gregory became a recurring guest on the show. He also released popular albums in Living Black and White, 1961, and Dick Gregory Talks Turkey, 1962. Civil rights activism. Gregory was at the forefront of civil rights movement during the 1960s and became friends with pivotal figures including Dr. Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers. He was arrested dozens of times because of his activism. While jailed in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, he wrote that he had received the first really good beating I ever had in my life. He continues political activism throughout the 1960s. He unsuccessfully ran against Richard Daley in 1967 for the office of mayor at Chicago. A year later, he ran for the US president as a write-in candidate with the Freedom and Peace Party during the electoral showdown between Nixon and Hubert H. Humphrey. What black votes are given in the US on the installment plan as a civil rights bills, not to be confused with human rights, which are the dignity, stature, humanity, respect, and freedom belonging to all people by the right of their birth. Dick Gregory. Later years. Over the years, Gregory became devoted to health and fitness, adopting a vegetarian diet and examining issues related to diet within the African American communities. He became a noted university lecturer and also regularly went on hunger strikes to bring awareness to various global issues, including the Vietnam War, women's rights, apartheid in South Africa, police brutality, and American Indian rights. During the mid-80s, the comedian activist launched a weight loss business known as the Slim Safe Bohemian Diet. He eventually filed a lawsuit against his business partners and experienced major financial troubles that led to the loss of his family's 40-acre farm in Plymouth, Massachusetts. In later years, Gregory became known for supporting various conspiracy theories about the assassination of Martin Luther King and John and Robert Kennedy, the crack cocaine epidemic, and the 9/11 terrorist attacks. He also turned away from stand-up for a while, preferring to stay out of clubs where liquor was served, but he later made his way back to performing. In 1996, he starred in the critically well-off Broadway production Dick Gregory Live. The comedian activist also authored a number of books, including Nigger, an autobiography, 1964. In the foreword, he wrote to his deceased mother, "Wherever you are, if you ever hear the word nigger again, remember they are advertising my book." He spoke about the controversial word in the title of his book in the 2002 interview with NPR. "I said, let's pull it out the closet. Let's lay it out there. Let's deal with it. Let's dissect it," he said. "It should never be called the N word." Also, other books that you can check out regarding Dick Gregory are No More Lies, The Myth and the Reality of American History, 1971, Dick Gregory's Natural Diet for Folks Who Eat, Cooking with Nature, 1973, and the memoir Callous on My Soul, 2000. Personal life and death. Gregory is married for more than 5.5 decades to Lillian Smith, whom he married in 1959. They had 11 children. One son, Richard Jr., died in infancy. Gregory acknowledged that his wife was the primary emotional caretaker for the children due to demands of his career. In 1999, Gregory was diagnosed with lipoma, but refused chemotherapy and instead turned to diet and alternative medicines. The cancer went into remission. He died on August 19th, 2017, at the age of 84. Fans and celebrities remember the legendary comedian on social media. The Reverend Jesse Jackson said, "He taught us how to laugh. He taught us how to fight. He taught us how to live. Dick Gregory was committed to justice. I miss him already." Neil deGrasse Tyson, comedian Dick Gregory always told it like it was. Our laughter was to fuel, to fight for justice in an unjust world. Rest in peace. So I think this is something that Dick Gregory wrote recently. He says, "As I approach my 80th revolution around the sun this year, I wonder why it has been so difficult for humankind to be kind, so difficult to be loving and lovable. For my militant brothers and sisters, please don't misconstrue loving and lovable to be weak or submissive. Love will always triumph over hate. I know I will not be here forever, nor do I desire to be. I have seen progress like most cannot appreciate because they were not there to bear witness. I dedicate my life to the movement. By doing so, I never thought that I'd be still here. So many of my friends are not here. They were cut down by a system of hatred and evil. If they were here, they'd see the progress that I see. The reality is far from perfect, but profoundly better than what daily reality was for my generation. Young folk, if you're wise, you will talk less and spend more time listening to the elders who saw evil up front and personal every day. How long? I have been asking this question for 40 years. How long before we realize our universal God given potential? We have made immeasurable progress that cannot be debated. That said, we still have a long way to go. I have no desire to see this all the way through. The dreams I dreamed about 60 years ago have definitely been realized. To the young folk of all ethnicities, I say stay woke, not to be a catchphrase, but as lifestyle. Most of the things that are killing us are in our minds and our daily routines. The way we think, the food we eat, and the water we drink, and so often don't drink, while so many go out and protest the small evils, the big evils ever present and welcomed in our homes. From top to bottom of my heart, I say stay woke. Love to you all, Dick Gregory. So that's Dick Gregory in a nutshell. If you want to know more about Dick Gregory, I will probably put some links up on the description. Me personally, he was a great man. I've discovered just how great Dick Gregory was. There's probably more stuff about him that I probably didn't know about. Often would tune in again on YouTube. You just type in his name. Some great lectures there. Great lectures, appealing to the hearts and minds of the African American or the black man and black woman of the world. If you are a person of color in particular, you should listen to Dick Gregory. He speaks so many words of wisdom. His words speak volume. And if you're just a person of interest and a person of really want to hear good, solid, found wisdom, you should check out Dick Gregory. And if you want to have a good laugh, hey, regardless where you are from the world and what your background is, check out Dick Gregory. He stood up for what was right and what was fair and what, you know, any good, wholesome person would do. He lived his life, Dick Gregory, and he certainly did many great things. Rest in peace, my brother. Rest in peace.